Dinesh, welcome to the program. How are you?
Glenn, it's a great pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you are more than welcome. I watched your film last week, and I gotta tell you, it's frightening and really powerful.
Well, we begin, Glenn, as you know, with putting kind of the viewer on a motorcycle with a GoPro, and you ride with Hamas into the kibbutzes. Hamas took this footage. Remarkably, not a lot of people have seen it. The Israel government, I think, was reluctant to show it, except to a handful of journalists.
We saw.
But it opens my film, and it has a bit of a graphic warning, but it's 10 minutes of putting you right on the scene of October 7th, 2 years ago, and the film kind of takes off from there to give you the widest significance. It engages politics, but history, archaeology, and even, as you mentioned, a hint of biblical prophecy, so that the political is wedded to the moral and the spiritual.
So let me play a trailer here from the movie. Here it is.
So who are the Jews? Who are the Palestinians? And whose land is it really? Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be somehow tied to this place?
The nation of Israel is a resurrected nation. So what if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, an enemy people of Israel? The Bible speaks about this whole war as a dragon representing the enemy, attacking a woman representing Israel.
The civilian deaths on both sides represent victories on the part of the dragon.
Hamas did everything within their ability to maximize the civilian casualty.
We came back to a land that was largely barren and empty, and we brought it back to life, and we're going to keep it.
The devil hates the Jewish people because they represent the existence of God.
Because without that Jewish foundation, there is no Christianity.
So let us go to the dragon's prophecy here for a second. What is the case of the dragon's prophecy?
Glenn, in the book of Revelation 12, there is a depiction of a dragon representing the devil going to war against a woman representing Israel, and the woman is pregnant representing the Messiah. So this is the sort of spiritual backdrop. It's a confirmation of what people sometimes say, that underneath our political fights, there is a spiritual war. But people don't often ask, who's fighting? Like, who are the combatants? And the answer is, this is a war that has been raging between sort of God and the devil from the very beginning of time. And a provocative idea in the film is that the devil cannot overthrow God. And so the devil tries to find out, what is it that God cares about? Let me ruin that. So in Genesis 1, for example, why does the serpent target Adam and Eve? Adam and Eve have done nothing to the devil, but the devil goes, I want to ruin them because this is God's cherished creation. If I can ruin them, I get my revenge against God. And I think for the same reason, the devil targets the Jews and the Christians. The Jews because they are the original chosen people, and so the devil's agenda is really simple. Drive them out of their ancestral homeland from the river to the sea, and also put a big Islamic victory arch right on top of their holiest site, which was the site of the Solomonic Temple. And then, of course, the Christians are, the Bible itself refers to Christians as like spiritual Israelites, and so the devil is like, I hate them too. I will persecute and harass and destroy the Christians no less than the Jews. And look, this is not just sort of idle biblical speculation. You can see this happening right in front of us in the world today.
Talk to me about the meaning of the word Hamas, Palestinians, where that came from. Can you take us through that a little bit?
Yeah, this is the genius of Jonathan Cahn and his book, The Dragon's Prophecy. He points out that Hamas in Arabic means something like force or strength, but in Hebrew, interestingly, the word means violence and destruction. And if you read the Bible in Hebrew, it literally says things like, Lord, save me from the men of Hamas, or Hamas dwells in the dark places of the earth.
I had to go to my Bible to look it up. It does say that. It does say that. It's crazy.
Yes. Not only that, Glenn, but the four colors of the apocalypse mentioned in the book of Revelation, which reflect famine and death and destruction, the white horse, the black horse, the green horse, the red horse. And John points out, he goes, just take a look at the Palestinian flag. It's made up of four colors, basically white for the white horse, red for the red horse, black for the black horse, green for the green horse. And all of this, I think, if there's a single connection, you can be like, I don't know. But there are so many of these connections teased out in the film that ultimately it's almost like you have to step back and reconsider if you are even understanding what's happening in front of you in the widest and sort of deepest possible light.
I have to tell you, I don't know about, I haven't studied this, enough. I just watched the movie once, and it's worth watching. But you will go back to scriptures and you will look it up. It is worth pondering because it shows you where we might be right now and the battle that we're preparing for, which is a really terrifying thing, but I'd rather know it so I can be prepared for it. You also, did a lot of archaeological stuff. What stood out to you in the research that you did?
What stood out to me, Glenn, is this. For 2,000 years and even more, there are figures that appear in the Bible. Pontius Pilate, Isaiah, Jeremiah, going further back, King David. We're talking now about 1,000 BC, so 3,000 years ago. And even 30 or 40 years ago, if you said, prove to me that these figures are real, prove to me outside the Bible using historical or archaeological evidence, you couldn't do it. Remarkably, just in the last few decades, there are inscriptions and stones and clay seals coming out of the ground that are showing that these biblical figures are real. The Bible is an account of real people and true events. So you can dispute the theology of the Bible, you can question the miracles, but the historicity of the Bible is being resoundingly affirmed. And it's almost as if as the world has become more secular and pulled away from God, God is speaking back, but not in the thunderous language of Genesis 1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, but rather in the kind of prosaic language of science and archaeology.
Yeah, it was really amazing because, you don't think we live in our time. And so you don't think about the times that have come. David didn't exist. These stories aren't true. They didn't exist. And now we're finding all of the archaeological evidence. And we just, at least I did, I just accepted that, the big things we knew existed. No, we didn't. It's now just being proven now because of what we're finding in archaeological digs.
Not only that, but for centuries, really for 2 centuries, going back to the Enlightenment, you'd have these armchair critics who would read the Bible and say, well, it looks to me like this was written several hundred years later. But now we know that can't be the case because there are minor figures in the Bible. The royal steward of King Josiah in like the 6th or 7th century BC, and suddenly a seal comes out of the ground in Jerusalem, and there's his name on the seal. Now, nobody 300 years later, this is like asking for the names of interns who work for Donald Trump, hundreds of years from now. Who would possibly know their names and identities? So this is why the Bible is being affirmed even at the level of excruciating detail.
The fact that everybody said Pontius Pilate didn't exist and the stair that has his name carved into it 2,000 years ago that was discovered. It's those things that you're like, I mean, how do you deny some of this stuff now? I mean, it's just piling up.
It's utterly impossible. And then, we are in Jerusalem and we go up to this place called Shiloh in the middle part of Israel.
Yeah.
And we find these remarkable red heifers. Now, I'd been reading a book about the red heifers. Mm-hmm. This has to do with the fact that in the end times, the Dome of the Rock will come down, the Jewish temple, the Solomonic temple will be rebuilt, and some of the rabbis are actually preparing for temple services, which involve the ashes of a red heifer. So all of this isn't just like Bible, interpretation. You have people in Jerusalem and in Israel actually preparing for this in a practical way.
And in fact, one of the things that they said, let me take a break and then have you come back and answer this. One of the things that we said, because we were talking about the red heifers 2 years ago, and they were talking about maybe making, red heifer into ashes to prepare. And Hamas said at the time, that's one of the reasons why they went after on October 7th was because of the red heifers. And you go into that and what they really call October 7th.